This drink, I like it. Another!
Galactic Civilizations IV is a 4X turn-based strategy game. Those 4 X's stand for, if you don't already know, explore, expand, exploit, and finally, exterminate. The Galactic Civilizations franchise is now 20 years old. This is the 4th installment. I have been playing Galactic Civilizations since GalCiv 2 way back. I have a deep and enduring love for this franchise. For me, it was one of the very first science fiction, space-based 4X strategy games, and honestly, in my younger days, I think I sunk thousands and thousands of hours into the predecessor for this game. But how is Galactic Civilizations 4, and should you buy it? That is the question I'm going to be answering today. First, I'm going to look at what is Galactic Civilizations 4, then I'll address what I think are some of the issues, and finally, I will give you my recommendation. Of course, I'll put chapters everywhere that I can, so check those out in the description below. Without any further ado though, let's dive in and have a look at the latest installment in an award-winning franchise. The first thing I need to probably mention is that this is Galactic Civilizations IV Supernova. This is the Steam release, and it is quite different to the Galactic Civilizations IV base release that was released on the Epic Games Store in 2022. This is straight up a better game. When it comes to starting a new game, you can either start your own map, you can play the tutorial, there are a great number of missions you can go through, allowing you to explore some of the rich theme, history, and story behind Galactic Civilizations 4. And last but not least, you can also play multiplayer with up to 4 other players. Let's look at the normal mode then, New Game. Starting a new game, you can pick one of the many pre-designed races. These races function in a very similar way to the civilizations you would get in a game like Sid Meier's Civilization VI. Galactic Civilizations 4 is very much Stellaris meets Civilization. What happens if you take Sid Meier's civilization and you put it in space? You can also create your own custom civilization, selecting from a vast host of available portraits, or different videos, and different Empire logos. You can choose the biology of your species. They can be carbon-based, aquatic, silicon-based, so rocks, synthetic, or ammonia-based. The ammonia-based is new, and that one's really quite interesting. Basically, ammonia life forms thrive on the volatile worlds that most other species simply want to avoid. You can also set your cultural affinity for your civilization. This doesn't force you to go down a specific ethical path, but it sets up the backstory of who your people are. You can choose some behaviors as well to further specialize this empire. Changing map themes, changing music themes, changing planet starting types, all of that, of course, is completely customizable. You can customize your civilization lore as well. But there's one feature here in creating a civilization that I would say is both amazing and unique to this game. You can use Alien GPT, which is basically AI machine learning, to, after giving a short description of a civilization, get it generated for you. Here I'm going to try making some warrior elves from paradise. We'll click the generate button. That has generated not only a description of this civilization, who are apparently called the Elven Vanguard, but also a description of their strengths and weaknesses. We can also get custom-made AI art. You can choose one of the images it offers or try and get more images selected. And here we now have a custom-made, completely unique alien race that we can now save and include in any of our games going forwards. We can create lots of different races this way, and this means you can always have unique civilizations out there in the galaxy to interact with if you want to. But now let's select the Terran Alliance and jump ahead so we can look at the galaxy generation settings. Whether or not you play with a custom empire or a pre-made civilization, you can still move your civilization traits around a little bit, and these will give you some percentage or singular point benefits for certain categories, like influence growth, manufacturing, diplomatic bonuses when interacting with other empires, and so on. We can choose to take penalties in order to get more available points, and therefore get more overall bonuses, or not. The choice is entirely up to you. The Galaxy settings screen is, in my opinion, really quite unique. The first thing that really jumped out to me was down in the bottom left here, the game tells you the recommended system for the settings you are choosing. The larger the galaxy, the more memory and cores the game will want you to have. We also have a new feature called sectors. Sectors basically split the map up into individual sub-galaxies, and you can traverse between them by getting some specific technologies. You can change the star frequency, the habitable planet frequency, the extreme planet frequency, the resources. Jumping in to look at the advanced settings, you can also turn on or off a few very important things. You can disable tech trading, that is diplomatically selling or buying techs from other empires, other civilizations in the galaxy, if you want to. You can leave it turned on as well. You can also disable tech brokering, which means that you can only trade known technologies, that is technologies you yourself have researched. On top of that, you can choose exactly which victory conditions will be honored in your game. There are 5 possible. Conquest, pretty straightforward. Influence is very analogous to a culture victory in Sidmia's civilization. Basically, you want to spread your civilization's influence, its culture, to the rest of the galaxy. What's great about influence as well is it can cause other planets to flip over and join your cause if you're just so darn tempting. There's an alliance victory if you can bring eternal galactic peace through diplomacy to the entire galaxy, then you'll win as well. A turn limit, and finally a prestige victory. Getting the best and most ascended empire in the game will net you the win. You can choose exactly which empires you would like to have in the galaxy. I generally like to have the Drengen around because they're pretty annoying, but also quite fun, and the Yor, and the Taurians, and the Arceans. What can I say? I just love some of the theme around this. You can also change the difficulty level of individual AI empires. You don't have to have all of them having massive bonuses or being simply better at playing the game. You can set up a single AI empire to be your in-game nemesis by making them slightly more powerful than the regular factions. You can also add random choices in, which will basically pick a random empire from this side on the left. Visually, the game is very pretty. You'll start with your core world, your civilization capital, in this case Earth, and a few other ships. We have a colony ship, a probe, and a flagship that can go around and survey anomalies. Basically think of this as the USS Enterprise. We also have a shipyard where we can begin constructing new ships, like adding in additional colony ships to colonize more worlds that we might find out there. There are some other super cool visual features as well. For example, Jupiter here has basically all of its moons orbiting it if you decide to zoom in close enough and take a look. Zooming out, you can see we only have access to our initial sector here. We can see where all the stars are, but we don't get to know where other planets might be. There are 2 nice map modes. There is the strategic map mode here, where a lot of the visuals get stripped away and we just get to see things like planets, ships, and that sort of stuff. Or if we zoom in, now we get to look at the pretty details. Planetary management is its own little minigame in Galactic Civilizations IV. Planets will have a base input of manufacturing, research, wealth, food, and influence, or culture. These will then be modified by things like your approval rating or other bonuses you'll get from a governor on your planet. We can also build specific districts to buff those numbers yet further. Once you place something on one of these hexagonal tiles, it will also provide adjacency bonuses. You'll want to stack these adjacency bonuses to further improve your different districts and buildings. This is the heart of GalCiv 4 planetary management. And honestly, it's a fun little minigame. If you don't want to wait around for some of these things to finish, you can also rush them using the only basic resource in the game. That is credits. Manufacturing is a local resource only, affecting just this planet and possibly any shipyards that are in orbit. Research is added to your global pool towards researching new technologies. Income we'll get to later. Food, again, global pool. You need this in order to upkeep your citizens. Each one adds a lot of different resources and has their own traits. By clicking on our citizens, we can spend something called control, which is basically like mana, to train our citizens in a different field that should give different bonuses. Training this citizen as a worker will increase our manufacturing, but it has decreased other things like research. With technologies, they've kind of taken a best of both worlds approach. There is a tech tree. If you go to the navigator, you can see the exact tech tree and where you can get to. what everything does. By using shift, you can zoom in further and look at every individual item on a tooltip as well. That's very nice, being able to have tooltips locked like that. And they've also somewhat borrowed the Stellaris model, where technologies are randomly drawn. In this case, you can research anything, but every turn your civilization will draw between 2 and 3 technologies, depending on whether or not you have a Minister of Technology employed. And these drawn technologies get a massive 50% research bonus, so they can be completed much faster than just the regular techs. Jumping into our civilization screen, because we've now unlocked it, you can see how wealth works. We have a GDP from all of our planets, all of our core worlds, and then we tax that at some rate. We can change the tax rate around to some predefined levels. Doing that might have some drastic effects on approval though. We can also set civilization policies that will have some very interesting overall effects. For example here, I can add in brainstorming, which increases our research output from 6 up to 8. That's a 25% bonus. These can be changed at any time as well. Later on, once we start having trade networks up and running, we can send out freighters to generate more cash as well. And if you're enjoying this video, please civilize that like button on a galactic scale. The leader screen is where you can get extra leaders. Leaders, like citizens, have their own traits, and these traits affect how well they will perform at different tasks. We can set our leaders to take a special minister role, and in doing so they'll provide some empire-wide bonuses. We can also use our leaders to govern planets. That is the only way you are able to do planetary management. Here we are colonizing our very first colony, Mars, and you get to look at some of the fantastic cutscenes that the game includes. So many times when something happens for the first time, Galactic Civilization IV plays a lovely cutscene. We also often get events that pop up. Sometimes these will have an ethical impact on our empire. Other times, we just get to pick which bonuses we want. Mars here is only a Class 3 world. That means it's really quite small. For that reason, you cannot actually assign a governor to it. This world, at no time can we ever zoom in on. It will only be worth its base production, in this case 3 minerals and 2 cultural output, and that will be shipped off to the nearest core world for that core world to then utilize. Honestly, this system with the core worlds and non-core worlds is really great. It massively reduces the amount of planetary micromanagement you might have to do if we had to manage every single world. Instead, we can simply focus on our core worlds, buff them up with lots and lots of great buildings, and pass on any other planetary outputs to the core world for refinement. This means by the mid-game, even if you've got 20 planets, you probably only need to manage 3 or 4. Meeting your first alien race can be a bit confusing, especially if you haven't researched the Universal Translator. This game has honestly got some really great humor in it as well. Somebody comes and says something and you fake smile and nod as if you understand, then proceed to close the incoming message. If we jump back to try and speak to them, again before Universal Translators, we can attempt to declare war on them or otherwise just leave them alone. The game also includes some quite excellent gibberish, which is some sort of anglicization of whatever these people are trying to say. When you finally build more colony ships, in comes the colonization mechanic. To colonize anywhere, you need to move available citizens onto your colony ships. They then become colonists, and you can ship them off to greener pastures, or possibly not such greener pastures. When you unlock enough culture points, you can then start progressing down one of the ideological paths. Each path has some interesting bonuses, and at the end you get something really very special. For example, at the end of Nihilism, you get the ability to destroy entire stars. We can construct star bases in the depths of space in order to harvest exotic resources, but also to claim territory that we really feel belongs to us. Diplomacy in the franchise hasn't really seen much in the way of improvements when we compare it back to Galactic Civilizations II. We can trade ships, technologies, strategic resources, treaties, credits, and also the promises of declaration of wars on other empires. Depending on the events going on in the galaxy and your own research, bonuses, yada yada, the relationship between you and these AI empires could either go up or down. If it gets too low, they will almost certainly declare war on you and try and take all of your stuff. Ship design in this game is also super customizable. We can start a new design at any time and then add in first off some core components. Those might be additional engines, special modules, weapons, or when you finally research them, defenses. But we can also go into the cosmetic mode and then using the vast array of components, and I think you'll be able to get even more from mods as well, we can make this ship look like basically anything you would like if you really want to spend the time customizing exactly the way each of your ships will look. We could go very much for a Federation style look and try to build up something that's much closer to the Enterprise, if we really want to. There are so many things you can do with the ship customization, it's honestly crazy. I've honestly lost countless hours tweaking and fiddling around with these ship designs in-game. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. The ship design aspect is definitely a core feature that other 4X games in the same space simply do not offer. Let's talk about combat. Planetary invasions, let's start with those. You can invade with armies, you can also bombard from orbit if you have the right ship types. And basically you have a conquest rating that will remove planetary defense every turn until the colony in the end becomes yours. It's a very simple system, but honestly, I don't really think this is an area the game needs to invest time. Ship-to-ship combat is relatively straightforward. You throw your ships at the enemy ships. As you close on them in the tile-based map mode here, you get the chance to fire off a missile volley and or a laser beam volley. Those are two of the three weapon types, the third being kinetic, to try and damage the enemy ships before you get into actual combat. Combat itself is entirely automated. Once the ships close into range, there's nothing you can do. You can either just finish the battle by asking for the results, or you can jump in and watch the battle if you feel like it. This is a feature that's been in the game since Galactic Civilizations II, I want to say. There is a cinematic camera mode. It does sometimes leave something to be desired. The battles can look cool sometimes, other times it's kind of hard to see what is going on. Larger ships fighting generally do display better battles, but as you can see here with the cinematic camera, sometimes the game just really doesn't know what it wants to show you. I tend to watch a few battles in my playthroughs, and then, like any Total War campaign, I end up just clicking auto-resolve a lot. The game also has a bunch of new features included as well. There are galactic challenges which you can set off at any time. For example, the Everwar here, which will give you lots and lots of prestige, counting towards your prestige victory if that's what you're going for, if you complete them, but they really can be very challenging. The Everwar, for example, forces the whole galaxy to start fighting each other because apparently diplomacy has completely broken down. It is insane, and I'm all for it. You also have executive orders that you can pass to do something special across your civilization. This is the main way you end up spending control, other than retooling your citizens. At any point, you can check out the data bank to see what the power levels of other civilizations out in the galaxy really are. As we go surveying anomalies, we may find some artifacts that should be placed in the vault. We can basically use those at any point to do some special in-game things. Here we can add influence to a planet, increasing its culture range. We can add hit points to a fleet, or increase the size of a planet by 1. All excellent bonuses. Last in this bottom bar but not least, we have the Galactic Bazaar. Basically the galactic market. You can buy and sell any of the rare resources that you might want to. Rare resources are collected either by star-based mining or sometimes from planets themselves. I've honestly lost hundreds of hours in this game and overall thousands of hours in this franchise. You've seen what Galactic Civilizations is and some of the awesome features it brings to the table. Now, let's talk about some of the problems. The in-game UI can sometimes be a little confusing and bombard you with way too much information. Early on, when I looked at this screen on a citizen, I had no idea what was going on. The tutorial is helpful, but there can be a steep learning curve to getting into Galactic Civilizations IV. It's not as hard as a game like Stellaris, but the UI and the learning curve are still issues. The anomalies you survey generally end up being, do you want an artifact or do you want some cash? That gets very repetitive later on in the game, and you end up just kind of auto-clicking through these. I wish the anomalies had more variety and did more than just give us cash or artifacts. Some of the balance is also, I would say, a bit skew-if. There are a few things that do seem a little out of whack. Influence generation, for example, seems to be a very strong and overpowering force which some AI empires simply cannot keep up with, and you're able to completely consume them without them doing anything about it. When you start annexing worlds via culture, I would like it if the AI were to react and start attacking you aggressively to reclaim their lost planets. There are also a few UI bugs still in the game. None of the bugs I've run into have at any point been game breaking. I've simply had to open and close a window again, and usually the bug goes away. But if that lack of polish drives you up the wall, perhaps this might not be the game for you. All of these issues that I've just gone through are, I believe, something that the developers at Stardock will fix over time. Stardock provided long support for Galactic Civilizations 2 and 3 with additional updates, additional DLC or back in the day expansions, and generally just more work on the game. I am very confident if you were to pick up Galactic Civilizations 4, you can expect lots of developer support now and further into the future. Let's talk about my thoughts on the game then. Do I think you should buy Galactic Civilizations 4? If you're a fan of Sid Meier's Civilization series and you wish you could play that in space, this is definitely the game for you. If you enjoy a 4X game like Stellaris, you'll probably also enjoy Galactic Civilizations 4. If you hate turn-based games, which I know some of you out there absolutely do not enjoy playing, you're much bigger fans of real-time games where things progress over time, like Stellaris, then this probably isn't the game for you. At its price point of $50 or 48 euros, I think it's very, very reasonably priced. You are getting a complete game at that price point, and you're going to get a lot of hours play out of this, not just through the sandbox map modes, but also if you want to, through the different missions. All of those different missions allow the game to tell you the story of Galactic Civilizations 4, starting with the humans' invention of hyperdrive, all the way up to the Dreadlords returning and beyond. And one more thing I have to mention is how absolutely fantastic the musical score behind this game is. I've been playing it in the background of this video. I hope you've been enjoying it. I think it's a wonderful set of pieces that complement Galactic Civilizations 4 brilliantly. Overall, if you have the time in your calendar to play this game, I think it's a good one to fit into your rotation, and I would definitely recommend it. I have honestly absolutely loved the Galactic Civilizations franchise, and Galactic Civilizations 4 Supernova is no exception. If you'd like to check it out on Steam, I will put a link down in the description below, which you can use to jump on over to Steam and check out the game. If you've enjoyed this video, but you'd like to see some actual Galactic Civilizations 4 gameplay, possibly with a little bit of roleplay thrown in, you might want to see my attempt at conquering the universe without firing a single shot. If you'd like to see my attempt at conquering the galaxy with culture, click the video on screen now.